I'm hurt. I'm suing y'all. My neck, my back, my neck and my back. I want 150,000. I'll settle out of court right now for a reverse hyper and a GHD.
Pow.
Welcome back to the GymCrafter YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Tim. I am the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com. And guess what? It's Friday, we're in the gym, and we ain't got else to do but give you a little nugget of home gym goodness on Fast Friday to get you through your weekend. And today we are talking about back pain. About a year ago, I bought this behemoth underneath me, the Reverse Hammer by Bells of Steel, and it's been a little bit over a year since I bought this. I bought it with my own money. I bought it because I had some significant back pain issues, and I've had these all of my life, but I had a pretty bad flare-up, and I was just bound and determined to do anything and everything I could to fix them. And when you look at the three things that this guy does, that's why I spent the significant amount of floor space. This thing is 6 feet long by 3 feet wide. We're talking 18 square feet of my garage, a little over $1,000, and it does just three things, right? It does what's called a reverse hyper, it does back extensions, and it does GHDs. All things that if I do regularly, I can pretty much alleviate my back pain. Pair that with some deadlifts and some other core strengthening exercises and I'm in good shape. Well, that was a little over a year ago. The back pain flare-up that I had is gone, and I have actually moved on to other exercises or other ways of doing those exercises. So it is time for this beast to find a new home. And I figured since it was leaving tomorrow, I would take a few minutes and shoot a video and show you guys what I like about this, what I'm replacing it with, and for those of you out there with back pain, hopefully give you some hope and to let you know that you really can train your way out of back pain in a lot of cases. Now, as with any time we talk about back pain or medical issues, I am not a doctor, I don't play one on the internet, and it is always very important that you talk to your doctor before you do anything to address back pain.
At this stage, I should mention that I'm not a doctor.
Now that said, what I want to do is share with you why this helps me with my back pain, what exercises I used it for, why you may or may not want something this big in your gym, and then like I said, what I'm going to be using in place of this that's going to take up a lot less space and really honestly does a better job in some ways and a good enough job in other ways to really replace it. So let's get into the Reverse Hammer by Bells of Steel. I've been dealing with back pain since I blew 4 discs out in my back a bunch of years ago doing stupid stuff. And after going to a ton of doctors, being recommended for surgery, and doing all kinds of other crazy stuff, including a lot of medicine I didn't like being on, I hired a really good coach. And that coach helped me deadlift my way to a pain-free back. And in conjunction with deadlifting, he recommended a bunch of other exercises that were really beneficial to me. This is one of them. This is a back extension. Now, the Reverse Hammer by Bells of Steel allows back extensions. It's not the best back extension thing in the world, but at the time I bought it, I didn't have anything else, and it was really nice to be able to have something to be able to do this exercise on. It really does a great job of strengthening your core muscles and really helping you develop some stability in your core so that it keeps your spine in alignment and protects it from injury. That said, let me show you what it's not very good at in this exercise. Now there's a couple of things that makes this very good at back extensions. Number one, this thing weighs 298 pounds. This is probably the most stable back extension piece you can put in your gym. So if you're a larger person or you don't like things moving around when you get on and off, this thing literally isn't going anywhere. Also, this locks your feet in really, really well. So I like that. I don't feel like I'm going anywhere. Now for the two things that I wish were different on this, and one of the reasons why I'm changing to a different method of doing back extensions. Number one, you only have a choice of one angle, perfectly flat. I prefer to do back extensions on a 45-degree angle, and this doesn't allow that. The replacement that I'm using, which I'll show you at the end of the video, does allow me to do that and a bunch of other angles. So if you want a back extension that uses different angles, this might not be the right thing for you. But if you just want something to knock those out and you want it in the same footprint as the other things this does, this is a good way to do it. The other thing I wish this was better at is this thing right here. Now this pad is removable, although it's very hard to remove on this piece. There's 4 bolts underneath. They're regular bolts, they're not quick release, and they're kind of hard to get to. The reason you would want to get rid of this for back extensions is this is called a man gap. It's a gap for your man bits, and that's kind of important for guys. And the back extensions that I just did, I didn't take this out. It does make it rather uncomfortable uncomfortable. So it's kind of a pain to do that, to take it off, but it's kind of a pain to leave it in. And it's one of the big things that I wish was different about this. So between the angle and the gap, shortly after I got this, I did start adding other ways in the gym to do back extensions so that, like I said, I could do angles and that I could have a little space for my private parts. But if you don't mind those couple of things, then this, like I said, is a good way to integrate back extensions into the same footprint that you can do the other exercises this is for. The next exercise is for something called a GHD, or glute ham developer. And that is a great exercise to strengthen your hamstrings. What I've found over the course of having back issues is that typically when I train clients and they complain of lower back pain, almost all the time, they have very, very weak hamstrings. And if we can spend some time strengthening those hamstrings with different exercises, then that's going to actually do a lot to reorient their pelvis, take a lot of stress off their lower back. And so GHDs was one of the reasons why I bought this. Now, GHDs are very, very hard to do. They look easy when you watch the advertisements. However, when you get up, and the neat thing about this is this back part slides back and forth, so it gets you so that it's set up for any size person. And you're gonna come up here and get set up, and now you're going to see the problem that I ran into. So, like I said, very difficult exercise. What you're doing is you're going down, and if you're not that strong, you're going to need to use these handles, and I've got little baby hamstrings right now.
I got baby legs.
On a good day, I can do 1 or 2 quality GHDs. So the issue with this is I have to do assisted where I'm pushing myself up, or to be quite honest, just like I bought something different to do the back extensions a different way, I ended up buying something different to strengthen my hamstrings. And that thing allows me to do GHDs just like the back extensions at different angles, and to allow me to kind of progress into them with easier and easier angles. And that was really helpful with a lot of my clients because, like I said, in the advertisement for these, you'll see a lot of people can just knock out GHDs. And then for me and for a lot of people, that's not something you're going to be able to do a lot of, and being able to have something that you can progressively overload by changing the angle and really working into a flat GHD, that's going to be very beneficial. So even though I bought this to do GHDs, I wasn't able to do a ton of them because I wanted to do kind of a decent number of reps. So I bought something different to do that with. So 2 for 2, right? The back extension is kind of so-so. The GHD is very inflexible if you're not strong enough to do a standard GHD. Now, like I said, extremely stable. For those of you out there who are big and strong and have much stronger hamstrings than I do, and a lot of my clients, this is going to do really well for you. However, for me and my clients, both of those first 2 exercises were only so-so. Let me show you the real reason why you buy something like this, and that's called a reverse hyper. This little thing down here, this pendulum with these weights on it, this is really the magic of this particular piece. This piece was bought to be a reverse hyper first, and then kind of developed so that you can do the GHD and you could do the back extensions as well. It's a nice way to combine all 3 of those exercises into one footprint. If you were to buy 3 separate machines that were as stable as this and as well built as this, it would take up 3 times as much room and you would spend a lot more than the a little bit over $1,000 this costs. But like I said, the real reason people buy these is this reverse hyper. Now, a reverse hyper is something that was developed by a gentleman named Louis Simmons, who ran Westside Barbell. And long story short, basically what happens is that at Westside Barbell, it's a competitive powerlifting gym. It is one of the most well-known and famous powerlifting gyms in all of powerlifting, and they created some beastly human beings in that gym. And part of being a beastly human being is having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds on your back or being deadlifted, so compressing your spine on a regular basis. And Louis developed the reverse hyper to help decompress the spinal column and then also drive blood flow into that spinal column to be able to help kind of mitigate injury and to rehabilitate and to get the blood flow in there to heal. And the way that this works is you come over here, you slide this to the right point. For me, it's all the way out. You put your feet in this little belt down here, and Louis would always recommend that you put about half of your body weight in weights onto here, and he recommended that his guys do this after every session, and sets of 30 typically. But what you're going to do is you're going to lean up here, grab these, and then you're going to kick your feet back, and you're going to get this weight swinging. And what happens is, at the bottom, the weight's going to pull my feet all the way forward, and it's going to decompress my spine and create a little bit of room in my vertebrae. Then when I'm lifting up with my feet back here, what that's doing is that's driving blood flow. The pump that you get from this exercise is really, really fantastic. And then what that pump is that's blood flow driving into your lower back and filling places that normally don't get a ton of blood flow. That's the magic of this. So, did that help my back? Yes and no. So it turns out that the reason that my back hurts is I have bulged discs. And the bottom part, where it's kind of opening up and decompressing your spinal column, actually doesn't do it at a good angle for my back. It actually sometimes causes me more pain than not. So in the end, while this is a very cool piece of gear, and a lot of you out there have these and love them, and if this is the right piece of equipment for you, you're absolutely gonna love it. It just turns out it's not exactly the right piece of equipment for me. The reason for that is while I love the upper portion of the reverse hyper, where I'm doing kind of a reverse back extension, and the nice thing about doing back extensions from a standard angle and then also from a reverse angle is you're pulling from different parts of the muscle, what are called the insertion points. And when you do it from one direction, you're pulling from one side. When you're doing it the other direction, you're pulling from the other side. And it really gives you a balanced kind of training effect and adds a lot of stability around your lower spinal column. It really helps out. So I love that part of it. So what I ended up using this for was not the swinging motion, but just doing weighted or resisted kind of reverse leg lifts or reverse back extensions. And I used it a lot for that. However, what I used it most for was probably a desk. So this makes a nice surface to put your computer on, to put your iPad on, to put my little logs on for when I'm working out. And so over the last year, I've used this less and less for training and more as just kind of a piece of furniture. I'm sure we've all had pieces in our gym that become clothes hangers and things like that. And that's kind of what this turned into. So the reason I wanted to make this video on a Friday for you guys is this, like I said, is a wonderful piece of gear for some people. If you are squatting heavy, if you're deadlifting heavy,
I don't have any weak points.
if you're a competitive powerlifter, if you're just a hobbyist powerlifter and you're putting a ton of compressive forces on your spine, this thing is invaluable. When you take the GHD, the back extension, and the reverse hyper function, you put those three together and you're really gonna bulletproof your back and really prevent a lot of injuries. You're gonna be able to kind of work harder and push yourself a little bit further. It's a really great machine for that. The first two exercises where I said I kind of didn't necessarily like as much as I could, those will be non-issues for you if you're strong enough to be putting that amount of compressive force on your back. In other words, if you are one of those West Side Barbell super strong power lifters, then you're not going to have the issues I do with hamstring strength and needing to do back extensions at different angles. This will work great for you. For everyone else, what I would probably recommend is not spending the square footage and not spending the money on something like this and going with something much more versatile. So let me show you what I'm replacing this with. And I know a lot of you already guessed that this is what it was going to be, but this is the Freak Athlete Hyper Pro. And the reason I'm using this instead of that is A, it's much more versatile, right? It doesn't just do the 3 exercises we talked about. And hold your typing of comments because I'm going to get to the reverse hyper part of it where I know this is not a reverse hyper, but we'll get there. But this replaces everything I was normally doing on the Bells of Steel piece. It also adds a ton of other functions. Now, if you want to see everything this does, this is truly a Swiss Army knife for your gym. I use this thing on a daily basis. Everybody that I know that has it uses it on a daily basis. I'll put a link down below so you can get to the current sale price to it. Those are affiliate links, so that does help me out as well, but it helps you out by adding this to your gym. This is something I think everybody should have in their gym. Another benefit of this is it doesn't take up near as much space. This takes up, when it's stored upright, a 2 foot by 2 foot space. It's very inconspicuous. It doesn't take up a lot of room in here, and that's one of the reasons I like this over that. Now, let's look at these exercise by exercise. Back extensions. Very important. Man gap, right? All right, check. Secondly is I can do this in different orientations. So this is at 45 degrees. It's super easy for me to do my back extensions at 45 degrees. And then I can just come down here and pop a pin. And I can change the angles on this to pretty much anything I want. If I want to do a lower one, if I want to go flat, if I want to do whatever I want to do, it's very easy for me to adjust this. Now, the one difference I will tell you is as you get on this, because it's mounted along the center, it does move just a little bit when you get on. Now, I don't feel that movement when I'm using it, but I do know some people have complained about that. If you're worried about stability, like I said, the Bells of Steel piece is super, super stable. This one it's gonna be a little bit shifty when you get on. Now, it's not unstable. I don't like when people call it that because it's not gonna tip over, you're not gonna fall off, it's not gonna break. It just moves a little bit under your weight. The second thing that I like about this is not only can I do GHDs, but as you saw me getting into the back extension, this allows you to do what are called Nordic curls as well. Now, Nordic curls are another really, really good way to strengthen your hamstrings. And what Nordic curls allow you to do is to come down and up with your hamstrings this way. Now, as you can see on this, I have an angle which makes them a little bit easier. I also have handles that are a little bit better placed than on the Bells of Steel piece. So if I want to assist myself, I can definitely do that. And then I can, again, change the angle on this. I can even go decline if I want. Now, something really cool. You can also get an actual GHD pad, and I use this for two things. I use this for GHD sit-ups, but I also use this for GHDs. This pops right on the top here and allows me to do GHDs at all of the angles I can do the back extensions and the Nordic curls on. So again, for strengthening my hamstrings, for strengthening my clients' hamstrings, this is just a much better tool for a broad range of people. Again, if you are a powerlifting beast, this might be a better tool for you. For everybody else, I think this is probably the better solution. Now, let's get to the one thing that I called out in the review for this, which is the marketing material says that you can do reverse hypers on this, and you can't. This is not the same as that, but let me show you how I use it and why it works just fine for me and my clients. So I've got this set up for GHDs, and just like the Bells of Steel piece, you're basically gonna get up on top, get your feet hooked in, get your knees over the front, and here you can see a little bit of that wobbliness that I was talking about. Again, doesn't bother me, I'm used to it, but it is there. And here I can do standard GHDs. But leaving it in this configuration, like I said, I can angle one side down, and that'll allow me to do one of a couple of things. So first of all, this is going to allow me to do GHDs at an angle, and there's a bunch of angles in between here and where I started, but here, this is so much easier. So that's going to be a nice way to progress in. Like I said, if your hamstrings aren't strong enough, but in this position, you can also do this. We're going to come around the back. I'm going to reach down and grab the handles underneath. And I'm going to do just the raising portion of the reverse hammer. Now, the video shows swinging and doing, you can't do that. This does not replace the weighted portion where it stretches your spine. But as I mentioned before, that's the part that I don't want to do. That's not the part that I kind of benefit from. If I want to do spinal decompression, I'll just do dead hangs on a pull-up bar and let my spine decompress that way. That's a much healthier way to do it for me. That's a much more beneficial way to do it for me. And then I just supplement with these reverse kind of, call them whatever you want, reverse leg raises, reverse back extensions. And then you can also attach a band and then load these so that you can get the resistance of the weight that you would have on the reverse hyper. But again, not a reverse hyper. Save the comments. I know that. Everybody else knows that. Even Freak Athlete points that out. But for my purposes, and again, for the purposes of training my clients, for the purposes of really helping have one thing in my gym that can really address a lot of things that help my back, I've decided to use the Freak Athlete Hyper Pro instead of the Bells of Steel reverse hammer. And I've had this for a little over a year. I really wanted to keep it. If I had a 3-car garage, I would probably keep it. But because space is at a premium and because, hint, hint, something else is going up here real soon, I need to get rid of it, and it's going to a new home tomorrow. So like I said, I wanted to take this moment for you guys on a Friday, do a quick video and show you what I use this for, whether or not this is going to be good for you, and then also do a fun Friday skit, because that thing's been living in my head since I started doing Fast Friday. I wanted to figure out a way to integrate that in, and I figured, what better way to integrate Ezel squirming away on the convenience store ground. It's a great movie. If you guys haven't seen Friday and you have no idea what that skit was, make sure you rent it this weekend. It holds up, it's an awesome flick, and it's something that you can do this weekend. So, let's get you done with this video. I appreciate you watching, I appreciate you tuning in, and have a great weekend. Go watch that movie, and we'll talk to you next week in the next video. I'm Tim with GymCrafter.
Pow.